All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here in Madison, New Jersey today at Shanghai Jazz and Encore Speakeasy with Tom Donohoe. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
It's great to be here. So I really like Shanghai Jazz. It's a cool spot, and we've been working on trying to get this on the calendar for some time now.
Yeah,
but
months.
Yeah, but good things come to those who wait. So I'm really excited to get in here, talk to you a little bit about what you guys got going on. But before we get into the restaurant and the speakeasy and everything else, let's learn a little bit about you, just so we know, people know who Tom Donohoe is. So New Jersey native, right?
New Jersey native.
Okay.
Born in Morristown.
Nice.
My mom and dad moved to Morristown when I was about 2 from Maplewood, and lived there for 31 years. Lived in that house for 31 years. Then my mom recently, like in the last 10 years, moved. Still in Morristown.
Nice.
I live in Morristown with my family.
Yep. So do I. So neighbors.
Yep.
Yeah.
And started working in restaurants when I was really young. I started working at Rod's in the Madison Hotel.
Okay.
Worked there for 5 years as everything from a busboy, dishwasher, waiter, bartender, cook.
So literally just climbing the ranks.
Everything.
Climbing the ranks. Yeah.
Everything. Maitre d'. Then I went to college in Rhode Island. Went to Providence College, got a degree in English literature, and worked through that in a restaurant as well.
Yeah.
Moved out west for 10 years in Montana.
Okay.
Was going out there basically the idea was to be a ski bum for a year.
Sure.
Work in a restaurant,
Yeah.
Cook a little bit, wait tables, bartend, etc.
Right.
That ended up being a career move. I fell in love with Montana and stayed there for a decade.
Yeah.
Left the restaurant I was working at. We sold, and I took a job as a sous chef south of Bozeman in Big Sky at the Rainbow Ranch Lodge, which was this amazing boutique restaurant and hotel, 21-room hotel, 80-seat restaurant with an award-winning wine cellar in the basement.
Yeah.
We did some amazing things. In the 10 years I was there, we started composting all of our byproducts and planted a garden for the summer season.
Very cool.
So we could, grow our own herbs and some vegetables, those that would grow at that altitude and at that climate we
Sure.
did well with.
Yeah.
And got to, because it was a seasonal restaurant, I was afforded the opportunity to travel when we were closed in the spring and fall and train at some amazing restaurants, including the French Laundry in California with Thomas Keller, Barbudo in New York with Jonathan Waxman, Café des Artistes also in New York, and a couple others. Just got exposed to some amazing restaurateurs, chefs, food, beverage programs, and just have always loved hospitality in general.
Yeah.
It's always meant a lot to me. I value it. I think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, during one of the off seasons at the Rainbow, everyone was on vacation. I actually took that one as a real vacation. We were in the Bahamas celebrating. My mom had just finished chemo, and so we went to the Bahamas to celebrate.
Sure.
And after a fishing trip, I found out that the Rainbow Ranch burned to the ground.
Oh, okay.
Because, again, we were all on vacation.
Yeah,
the whole staff was
nobody's
away.
there.
No one was there. It's in a pretty remote spot.
Yeah.
It's 12 miles from the town of Big Sky. It's down on the river.
Right.
It's right on the Gallatin River, which is where they filmed a ton of scenes for A River Runs Through It.
Okay.
On that river, it's just spectacular.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the place burned down while we were on vacation. I came back and redesigned the kitchen, helped tear down what was left of the building, helped dig and pour the new foundation.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the primary owners in Chicago weren't comfortable, and just kind of played with everybody's paychecks.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I left and came home to New Jersey. That was 2008. Economy was obviously not great.
Not great, yeah.
So I came home to get closer to the family, figured I'd have more job opportunities back here.
Sure. I mean, when you're working at a restaurant that remote, I'm going to imagine there's less opportunities.
Yeah, particularly in 2008, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There was as I said, it was a really unique restaurant, and there was just no place else like it.
Right.
I didn't want to work for anybody else or at a lesser restaurant. And it wasn't a good time economically to start a new restaurant.
Yeah.
So that drove me home. I ended up taking a job in Naples, Florida, with Patrick Hurd, who was my mentor, and he was my boss in Montana as well for those 10 years. He had taken a job down there, called me, said, I've got this opportunity to turn a restaurant from like a middle-of-the-road casual dining restaurant to a high-end fine dining restaurant right on the water in Naples. Not on the beach, but in like a back canal. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Lots of wildlife. And
Yeah. Very similar to Madison. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Jersey in general.
Yeah, right.
So I went down there, did that for 7-8 months. The whole thing kind of fell apart for both of us. And I came home, took another job as the head chef at Doris and Ed's in Highlands, which was another amazing restaurant. That was actually Doris and Ed's had been there for 35 years, I think. Maybe more, 40 years. And it was the first restaurant in New Jersey to ever win a James Beard Award.
Wow.
I wasn't there at the time, but pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we did really well. We were perennially, best seafood in New Jersey. And it had a pretty unique menu where half the menu was like the Jersey Shore classics, broiled flounder, lobster, button pound, etc. The other half was seasonally driven, fresh, more esoteric dishes that were driven by creativity and seasonality.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. Did that until Hurricane Irene in 2011. Apparently,
you get a lot of natural
disasters follow me, I guess.
Like
it's
a
not
black cloud.
It's the one real blemish on my resume, I guess. I've worked pretty hard my whole life.
Yeah.
So then after that, I was really started looking in earnest to find my own restaurant. Again, that was 2011. In the meantime, while I was looking, I started a consulting business. And I opened restaurants in Neptune, Martha's Vineyard, Morristown, helped some friends out. Ended up staying at a restaurant in Morristown for 3 years, and then found this place, left there, took a job in Bergen County, where I was for the year that I negotiated this with David and Martha, the original owners of Shanghai Jazz. They started it in '95. And I bought it, my partners and I bought Shanghai Jazz in 2017.
Okay.
June, so it's almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been, like I said, it's been a great career. Over 30 years now that I've been in restaurants.
Sure, yeah.
Which is strange that I'm that old.
Well, you said you started really young.
I started,
Right. You started when you were like 10, right?
I was 12. Yeah. True story.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people wouldn't count being a busser at 12 years old as the start of a career, but
yeah, it does. You're in the industry. Like
I was learning.
That's how you get started, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, because you mentioned, 5 years ago you buy Shanghai Jazz.
Yeah.
Let's just do as best you can, a little bit of just kind of the background, because you said David and Martha started it in '95.
Yeah.
So 95 to 2017 is obviously a pretty long time to run a place like this.
Yeah.
So maybe the background of it and kind of how it got started.
Yeah. So, two very impressive people, David and Martha. Martha's parents owned the building and the restaurant, and at the time when they came in, it was called the Four Seas Chinese Restaurant.
Okay.
And it was just a Chinese restaurant here in Madison. Before that, it was the PS Pub, which was kind of I guess in this area for people a little bit older than I, it was kind of a legendary beer and a shot bar in downtown Madison.
Yeah, like the only dive bar in Madison.
Yeah, exactly. And so David and Martha came in and said to her parents, we'll take it over, we'll buy it from you, we'll set up, we're going to call it Shanghai Jazz. Martha, they're both brilliant, just really smart people, attorneys. And what inspired them to get into the restaurant industry. Besides insanity, I don't know. I was cursed with it from a young age, but they seemed like they had other opportunities, and they just felt like this was a good one for them. And they did it for a long time. They did it for 23,
I know. Like you said, that's a really good run.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Martha had been studying when she was getting her PhD at Harvard.
Excuse me.
Yeah. She's a sweetheart. She's brilliant. She's great. Anyway, so she was studying, part of her studies was spent on 1920s Shanghai, which was, at the time, kind of a focal point for a lot of different people around the world to kind of come find refuge, I guess.
Sure.
There was the Depression and Prohibition going on in the United States. There was fascism growing in Eastern Europe. So a lot of different cultures came to Shanghai or went to Shanghai, and it brought different cuisines and a lot of different music.
Yeah.
So their thought was to recreate the jazz scene in 1920 Shanghai. So they put Chinese food with jazz, which, I mean, jazz is decidedly an American art form.
Right.
And they crushed it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were fortunate that at the time, there were a lot of really amazing jazz musicians who were local.
Yeah.
Bucky Pizzarelli, Catherine Russell's career was really starting to take off, and Bernard Purdy's in the area. So they were able to tap into these unbelievable musicians.
Yeah.
Freddie Cole, Nat King Cole's little brother, was
right.
And Marion McPartland, and they were able to bring these musicians into this tiny little space. It quickly became one of the top 100 jazz clubs in the world, and they curated relationships with these musicians that musicians love it here.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They value having a small place that's so dedicated to music.
Right, because there's really, like, in this area, places do live music, but there's not a lot of places that do it as consistently as you guys do.
I don't think anybody does it anymore every night like we do.
Right.
And nobody, and I don't say this arrogantly, nobody gets the quality of musicians that are willing to come here.
Right.
Right? I mean, this place, I'm struck by it almost every day.
Yeah.
The musicians who want to come play here. And those who come in every day and hang out and, like, play, and you can kind of listen to them, and you're like, wow, that's outrageous.
Right.
And even today, like, after 5 years, I still meet a musician and they play, and I'm just like, and I'm not a huge jazz fan.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
But I grew up on rock and roll.
Yeah.
So I listen to a musician, I'm like, God, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then you have a conversation with them, and they don't say. Then you Google them.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh, they recorded albums with Ray Charles and, all these other people. And, there's a guy that I haven't seen since before the pandemic, but he used to come in, and I booked him a couple times, and it was hilarious. His name's Tim. He called me up one day. He's like, Tommy, got a big problem. You got any gigs available in, like, the next 2-3 weeks? I'm like, Tim, no, we're booked. I'm sorry. I'd love to get you in. He goes, damn. Mick got sick, so the tour got canceled. I was like, oh. Mick Jagger got sick, so you're
going to Shanghai.
You're furloughed for a few weeks. You want to come play here. You were going to tour with the Stones.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, stuff like that just is wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
But so the music has become such an integral part of this little corner in Madison.
Right.
Where, I've had people, I know people in Florida who, like, my mother-in-law will say, call me up every once in a while. She's like, oh, I was out at dinner and talking, and you came up, and I said he owns this place in Madison, and, oh, we know Shanghai Jazz. Like,
yeah.
It's just wild.
Right.
So, yeah, it's been an interesting new aspect. The music has been a new aspect to my career.
Right.
Hospitality and food and drinks have always been great to me, and I've always enjoyed them.
Yeah.
And I like the creativity.
Right.
But bringing this world-class level of music and talent into a dining experience is crazy.
Right. Like it's probably just a
so much
totally
fun.
different experience. And yeah, like you said, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we're going to take our first break of this episode. This is a good segue into what we're going to get into. So first-timers coming in here and what to expect. Obviously, there's going to be music involved. But so this is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We are here at Shanghai Jazz and Encore Speakeasy in Madison, New Jersey with Tom Donohoe. We'll be right back. It is time for Today in New Jersey History. Dick Button was born in Englewood, New Jersey on July 18th, 1929. He was a figure skater who is credited with being the first skater to successfully land the double axel jump in competition in 1948. He also completed the first triple jump of any kind, a triple loop, in 1952. Button is also credited with inventing the flying camel spin, also called the Button Camel. He was inducted into the World Figure Skating Hall of Fame in 1976. And that is Today in New Jersey History. All right, we're back for segment 2 of this episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm Mike Ham. We're here in Shanghai. We're not here in Shanghai. We're here in Madison, New Jersey at Shanghai Jazz and Encore Speakeasy with Tom Donohoe. So, Tom, in the first segment, we learned all about you and kind of a little history lesson on Shanghai Jazz and its run here, which has been an impressive run since 95. You take over 5 years ago. But in the second segment, we always like to kind of give a first-timer, somebody that's never been here before, a little bit of a taste, for lack of a better word, of what to expect when they come in here for the very first time after listening to this episode. So right out of the gate, we know menu primarily Chinese food?
It certainly was when I took over.
Sure.
But as I said to David and Martha when they offered to sell this place to me, I'm not Chinese.
Yeah.
And they said, we know that. But I am a chef, and the chefs I have in the kitchen right now, my head chef, Ryan De La Rosa, his sous chefs, Carlo, his brother De La Rosa, and Justin Lim, are all amazingly talented guys.
Yeah.
And the four of us work really well together, discussing food and making dishes, and I give them a ton of, I trust them completely. And they work their tails off, and they're really talented cooks.
Yeah.
So I'm able to have a little bit of influence on menus, or we'll talk about it, and they'll come to me with ideas, or I'll give them an idea, and then it'll all kind of funnel into a final product that really doesn't take a ton of tweaking before it can get on the menu.
Right.
We taste it, we all have input, we adjust it, maybe adjust it one more time, and then see how it flies. So since I've taken over, particularly since COVID hit, since the pandemic started, which is kind of when these guys started, the menu has evolved away from kind of a strict Chinese Asian menu to far more worldly, and I think more representative of what David and Martha had in mind when they set out to create 1920 Shanghai.
Okay.
Where it was a multicultural experience in Shanghai. Now you're getting jazz and Asian food and American food and French and a little Italian nods, but all of the dishes are certainly rooted in Asian flavors and techniques, because partly out of necessity, because unlike any kitchen I've ever run, I have a 25-foot wok range.
Yeah.
So
you got to use it.
Got to use it. No reason to spend $30,000 or $40,000 ripping that out and putting in 3 or 4 6-burner stoves and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, the efficiency of a wok is incredible. The heat you're cooking with, it's just a different experience. It's a lot of fun to learn.
Right.
From a chef cook perspective.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
Coming from French-style kitchens.
Okay.
So, yes, the flavors are all still rooted in Asian cuisine or inspired, influenced by, but we do bring it around. Like our sesame chicken, for instance, was diced chicken like you would get at a takeout restaurant. But now it's a beautiful, organic, we're trying to move to a locally raised chicken breast.
Okay.
But it's a whole white whole chicken breast, crispy fried like southern, the southern style,
Yep.
Southern American style.
Yep.
But then we glaze it with a gingery sesame sauce that I think is spectacular.
Yeah.
And it's just a different take on a sesame chicken.
Right. Now, was that when you took over and then you start like tweaking the menu to kind of fit what you're going for with this restaurant? Was that something that was like well received with the community? Were they just like, where's the Chinese food? Like
some, yeah. And changing anything. When you come into a restaurant that's been successful for 23 years.
Sure. Yeah. If it ain't broke.
The thought of changing anything is intimidating.
Right.
Right? Like I'm used to writing a new menu every 2-3 months.
Yeah.
And having it constantly evolve.
Yeah.
So if I decide I don't like a dish, or the price of lobster's gone up 20%, or whatever it is, like drop that item, come up with a new one, and get it on the menu. This menu had been, and there are still people who come in and look for this firecracker beef, and it was a great selling item. I didn't like it at all. It was just not.
It's not you though.
It just wasn't it didn't appeal to me. I didn't like eating it.
Yeah.
I saw the appeal to others.
Right.
But it just wasn't. And not to mention, when the cooks that we had, who were mostly Chinese, they all lived in New York, and the pandemic hit, and they couldn't leave New York.
Sure.
So I was forced to replace them.
Yeah.
They were all great people, really good cooks. But then I brought in these guys who are local. They live in Maplewood. They're Filipino, so they're not Chinese, and they're not, so they have an Asian background, but
different.
A lot more Spanish influence, a lot more American influence, and they've been here for a long time, and they've cooked up and down they've been Maryland, Indiana, I think.
Okay.
And again, we were able to have a dialogue about food and figure out where we wanted to take it. And as long as the food's good and we were improving the quality, I wasn't afraid of change.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's intimidating trying to change something that works so well.
Right.
And so the menu evolved kind of naturally and out of necessity.
Yeah.
And we're getting more often than not, we get comments that the food has improved.
Yeah.
We took a very good restaurant and we improved the food, which is
hard to do, but
hard to do. But at the same time, it's like I needed it because I'm a chef.
Sure.
I just needed to see some evolution in the food.
Of course.
Away from traditional Chinese food to something a little bit more mainstream and a little bit more exciting for people to come in. And so now they come in, they sit down, they have this incredible music in front of them, and they're like, holy crap, this is like an exceptional dinner.
Right. Let's talk talk a little bit about maybe like the thing, like, so I remember when I ate here with my buddy the first time, I asked you, I was like, what are the things I should be getting? And you gave me when we got them all.
Yeah, you got them all.
So let's hit the highlights. Like when people come in here, like what do you see them ordering the most? What are the ones that you like are like the heavy hitters of Shanghai Jazz?
Yeah, I mean our dumplings from an appetizer, dumplings fly, right? We make all of our own dumplings except we call them Little Dragons. They're chicken and vegetable dumplings. We do buy those because we only have 4 cooks.
Right.
There's only so much time in a day, and everything else, truly everything else, is made from scratch, hand cut, hand rolled, all of it. So, our number one selling dumpling, I think, is probably the Little Dragon, and they're a great dumpling.
Yeah.
So we can't argue with that.
Right.
But the more esoteric items on the menu that aren't, they're more Americanized, like my or Ryan's take on marrying Asian and American or New Jersey.
Yeah.
Right. So our cheesesteak egg rolls are crazy. They're just delicious.
Yeah.
So braised short ribs, caramelized onions and peppers, and American cheese, crispy fried in an egg roll.
That's fusion right there, baby.
It's yeah. Every bar in America, or certainly New Jersey, does buffalo wings. We do dry spiced togarashi wings.
Yeah, the wings here are fire. Like, they are delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Shameless plug.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We marinate our wings overnight with spices and garlic and thyme and hot sauce, and then bake them. And then we fry them crispy and toss them with togarashi, which is a Japanese 7-spice that has like nori and sesame and chilies. I think it's got 3 or 4 different types of chilies and more garlic, and then so they're just unique.
Yeah.
Right. Dry spiced as opposed to, so they're a little cleaner, but also super flavorful. Calamari's different. Again, every restaurant in New Jersey does calamari with marinara sauce, and all that. Ours is, it doesn't come with a sauce, but it doesn't need one. It's served dry, but it's not dry.
Yeah.
It's got a ton of flavor with 3 different chilies and crispy onions and salt and chili oil, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
Then the entrees, again, when we took the restaurant from that Chinese to what we're doing now, and the menu, my thought behind the menu evolution was similar to what I mentioned earlier about Doris and Ed's, where we had a side of the menu which was traditional Jersey seafood.
Yep.
We have a part of the menu which is traditional Chinese.
Yeah.
And then another part that's seasonally driven.
Right.
And that's still, in the last 2 years, just evolved even more to where we have some nods to the traditional Chinese, like our triangle of 3 precious ones that has, stir-fried bamboo shoots and beef, chicken, and pork, spicy garlic sauce, or the Korean beef, or a chicken and broccoli. We do it with broccolini, again, to just kind of refine it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's all white meat, et cetera. But to evolve it more to where it's more seasonally driven, now we have the sesame chicken. We have this incredible Arctic char that's crisp-skinned, served with braised kale and a dill caviar sauce.
Yeah.
Our Beijing duck is as good as it gets. I mean, I've cooked thousands of duck dishes in my life.
Yeah.
It's a whole duck. We cure it for a day or two, roast it, and then fry it crisp till the skin gets nice and crispy.
Yeah.
It's juicy, and it's just dynamite.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then our burger, I figured we needed a burger.
Sure.
So
It's very American.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we grind it ourselves, so it's chuck,
Always way better that way.
short rib,
Yeah.
and bacon.
Oh.
We grind bacon into the burger.
Yeah.
Grill it to order, melt brie cheese with a bacon pineapple jam,
Yeah.
and it's
For sure.
pretty dynamite.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Might be in here for soon for that one.
So
also, I remember like the fried rice here is like next level. What was that? There was like a shrimp dish that I got. Bang bang shrimp. Is that right?
Yeah, our Thai chili shrimp on
Thai
the
chili shrimp,
appetizers
Thai chili
are
shrimp.
pretty
Yeah.
killer.
Yeah, very killer.
Little crispy, little sweet, little spicy, creamy, and
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't want to take up too much more time on the menu because I
Yeah.
do want to make sure we talk about the speakeasy portion of this place because
Sure.
we've talked about Shanghai Jazz basically this entire time, but there's
Yeah.
another level
Yep.
below Shanghai Jazz that's relatively new that is really cool. So let's talk a little bit about Encore and kind of what you guys have going on down there.
also really it's unique, right?
Yeah.
So
there's not many places that have something like that.
no. Taking the restaurant over and the space over from David and Martha again, there was a space downstairs that was finished. It was they used it as a private dining space. There was a bar, but it had it was all paneling, and it had like accordion walls and drop popcorn ceiling, and
Yeah.
it was functional. And we used it again as a private dining space occasionally, but I always saw it as a better source of revenue, if or sale, just something. There was more we could do with it. It was underused.
Right.
So after about a year and a half being here, well, first we renovated the main dining room after about 7 months of being here.
Yep.
And then 8 months later, we renovated the basement. And the idea was always to make another bar, another space to dine. Again, as a chef, I, at the time, was kind of looking at every space in this place as a dining space.
Yeah.
So we renovated it, built a beautiful bar, custom built tabletops, and set up a dining space. The walls were, off-white, cream-colored. It was attractive. It was certainly a huge step up from what we took
What it
over.
was. Yeah.
But it never really took off. We had some staffing issues. Then the pandemic hit, and it just never took off. Last October, a couple girls were here having a drink, and one of them mentioned, her name was Chloe Morrison, that she used to bartend in Morristown. I asked her if she wanted to guest bartend. I said, I've got a bar downstairs that's not doing anything. If you wanted to invite your friends, have a guest bartend down there,
Sure.
You make money, everybody has fun, and I make a little bit of money, that'd be fun.
Right.
She asked me if she could decorate a little bit, and she took 5 weeks and redecorated the entire space and created, again, this unique, really cool, cozy, comfortable, warm, inviting, fun space with an unbelievable energy.
Yeah.
And it's really still in my eyes, unfortunately, well-kept secret.
Yeah.
But it's just a really cool spot to hang out and have a great drink. So there's a totally unique drink menu down there. The wine list is unique. The beer list is unique. The cocktails are unique. And it's a 40 to 50 person space. And it's a real speakeasy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other places that say they're speakeasies. I don't really agree.
Right.
Because it's either just a repeat of what you had in the main space downstairs or wherever hidden. So it's just really unique. It's super fun and comfortable, and the creativity that's going on down there from a drink perspective is also just different. It's just on a different level.
Yeah.
So it's a great complement to what we're doing up here. You've got great dining in Shanghai Jazz and live music, and you can, in one building, have completely separate experiences.
Right.
There's still food downstairs.
Yeah.
There's small plates that are derived from what we do up here in the main dining room, but it's unique. And Thursdays right now, we've got live music for happy hour downstairs in Encore with Steve Hogan. Goes by Hoagie. He's a Morristown guy as well. He's great.
Yeah.
We actually went to Frelinghuysen together.
Oh, okay.
He was 2 years behind me, and I ran into him, got to know him again 10 years ago. And he said to me, we went to Frelinghuysen together. I was like,
no. Like, who the hell are you?
I barely remember myself in middle school. How do I remember you?
Who does? Yeah.
And of course, in middle school, he probably had short cropped hair, and now he's like, 10 years ago, he had this giant afro, tattoos and piercings.
Right.
And
You look exactly the same.
Yeah,
you
the
haven't
same-
changed a bit
yeah.
since middle school.
So then the next day he came in the restaurant and he brought what was my 8th grade yearbook.
Wow.
I don't think I've seen that since maybe the beginning of 9th grade, right? But he's still got it, and he's the best. And so he plays every Thursday downstairs, just solo acoustic or solo guitar, and everything from Tom Waits to Tom Petty and Grateful Dead. And so that's unique too, because up here in Shanghai Jazz, we have to keep some connection to jazz.
Sure.
He can go down there because it's a separate thing.
Yeah.
and do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
We'll we're talking about getting some like a trivia night in one night and done. So it's just a really fun spot to hang out.
No, it's awesome down there. I really like it. And they like Chloe and Ryan, right? Like they're usually down there. They do a great job, and I think like everything you got going on up here, down there is phenomenal. So awesome. And we already know about the live music. We went a little bit longer on this segment, so we're gonna take our second break, our last break of this episode. So this is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We are here at Madison. Oh, geez, this is hard because it's two different places. We're at Shanghai Jazz and Encore Speakeasy in Madison, New Jersey with Tom Donohoe. We'll be right back. It is time for your New Jersey fun fact of the day. Did you know that New Jersey is home to 11 state forests and 42 state parks? And that is your New Jersey fun fact of the day. All right, we're back for our third and final segment of this episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm Mike Ham. We are here at Shanghai Jazz and Encore Speakeasy in Madison, New Jersey with Tom Donohoe. Finally got it right. Places, it's tripping me up, but I'm a professional. So first segment, background on you and Shanghai Jazz. Second segment, we learned if you're a first-timer that's walking in here, you should get a pretty good idea of what to expect, whether you're eating up here in the main dining room or going downstairs to grab a drink or something to eat down in the Encore space. But in the third segment, we always like to do, it's my favorite segment that we do of this episode or of this show, is to talk about the relationship that these businesses, nonprofits, and other people that we have on the show have with their communities. One of the things that we were mentioning off air before we even got started was almost like the importance of you maintaining this, because it's been around since '95 as like essentially a pillar of the Madison community. So take me through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, coming into a place that's well established as an Asian restaurant with world-class live jazz, top 100 jazz clubs in the world, I knew it was important to maintain jazz.
Yeah.
But the weight and the responsibility that wasn't like people coming in and be like, hey, you, like wagging a finger.
Yeah.
But it was definitely overt, like, hey, Tom, you're taking this over. Don't screw it up.
Yeah.
Like this is important.
This is one of our spots.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not just Madison, not just Morris County, New Jersey in general, and the music community.
Yeah.
Where you've got people that like Bernard Purdy and Freddie Cole again, and Saran Crenshaw, like people coming in who play music and care about this place. Carl Latham is a good friend at this point and has a couple different musical projects. He's one of the top drummers in the world, and he's a huge supporter of this place.
Right.
He teaches at CCM and Drew and Fairleigh, and he's the musical director for the Shirelles, and he's just unbelievable. And he's canceled other gigs that pay a lot better than I do to come support this place.
Yeah.
And it just means it means a ton to me that
Right.
these musicians will do that.
Yeah.
And there's a huge sense of pride in Madison, Morris County, that this place provides and curates the level of music that it does. And I had no idea that would be as important, taking it over. And it really is different.
Yeah.
So, when people call me up and say, and I get a dozen or 3 dozen phone calls or emails a week of musicians that want to come play, I have to spend a lot of time like actually paying attention to what they play and how they play, and like know that there's a quality side of things that needs to be maintained, and there are a ton of really great musicians out there.
Yeah.
And I don't get many applications or submissions to play here from bad musicians.
Right.
But it needs to fit this
you do.
space.
Yeah.
And I need to know that I'm a businessman. So I need to also know that they're going to bring people in here.
Right.
So that I can pay them, I can pay the musicians, and I can pay my staff, and everybody's going to make money.
Yeah.
And I'm at the bottom of that, just generally.
Yeah, it's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. But the music and the musical community, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was here for 18 months, and I got an email from Max Weinberg of the E Street Band,
Oh.
but from his
Sure.
agent,
Yeah.
actually, saying, "Hey, Max is the tour just ended." I was like, "Yeah, I saw it. I was at the Garden on
Yeah.
March 16th. What are you saying?" He's,
Yeah.
"Well, Max wants to play."
Oh, okay.
He's like, he wants to go from the Garden
Yeah.
to
Shanghai Jazz. Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
So Max had has a jazz quintet that he was touring with and going to jazz clubs around the country. And he wanted to, I mean, he's from South Orange, so
Right.
he wanted to come here. And he did 2 nights here, and he was unbelievable. But
Yeah.
for Max Weinberg of the E Street Band to email me, or to tell his agent, "Hey, email the guy that owns Shanghai Jazz. I want
Right.
to go play there."
Yeah.
That it just strikes you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a huge Springsteen fan to begin with.
Sure.
So,
Right.
but yeah, it's just a different thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like it doesn't happen normally.
No, for sure not.
And so that's just fun.
Yeah.
And bringing great music into Madison is incredible.
Yeah.
And the stories that people tell and have from playing with Frank Sinatra or Bruce Springsteen, whoever, like
Yeah.
the Stone, all these guys they just have unbelievable stories.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I think, like, talking about the community, like not only supporting the music community, but giving the community of Madison, Morris County, like we were saying, everything like that, a venue where they can actually come and have this experience where they can't really get it
Right.
any other place.
Right.
And that's what I think makes it so unique, and is why, in the few times that I've been here, I see like a lot of the same faces.
Yes.
And I think that's a big thing too, because you're such an important part of the community, you're going to keep attracting those same people.
Yep.
And if you're doing that and not obviously driving them away, then you're doing your job.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, so I hired someone new recently, and she was working with Jason, our bartender. Jason's great. He's been here since last August, and he works his tail off, and he's a really good bartender.
Yeah.
But he's explaining to this new person and he pulled me aside. He's like, I didn't realize it until I started talking about it. But you don't get better clientele
Yeah.
as a bartender, right? Like, this is the clientele who come in here and sit at this bar are just they have a different mindset. They have a different expectation when they sit down here. They
Yeah.
want to connect with the bartender. They want to connect with the place. They want to listen to music and have their conversations. And it was really complimentary of this place and the community that comes in here.
Right.
And the people who support it, that they're all here for the right reasons.
Yeah.
You know, there are other restaurants, people, inevitably you have, not every night, but once a week at least, you have somebody coming into your restaurant, and it's almost as if their intention is to come in pissed off.
Right.
And
yeah.
you'd be like,
we've talked to a lot of restaurant owners that say something similar.
Right?
Yeah.
Here, people come in wanting to have a good time. And we make mistakes every once in a while.
Everybody does.
We all work, my coworkers and I all work really hard to avoid them.
Right.
And if they happen to fix them quickly, and usually we're able to turn a corner and make people, hey, you're having fun.
Right.
We screwed up. I apologize. Buy you a drink. Sometimes buy your whole dinner.
Right.
But inevitably,
They don't do that frequently. For anybody listening, for a free ride.
No. I don't. I don't want to. I can't. I certainly can't.
Yeah.
But the point is, like,
Come on down to Shanghai Jazz and get a free dinner.
shut up, Mike. Jesus.
It's all right. Nobody listens to the show anyway.
No, but people come here to have a good time.
Yeah.
And the number of people who are first timers that come in and they're
Yeah.
like, I'll talk to them. They're like, "Holy crap, this is fun."
Yeah.
Even younger people, and that's been one of the big challenges.
Right.
Right. Is jazz is an older thing.
Sure.
So one of the things that definitely struck me coming in here for the first, my first 6 months of being here was like, the clientele they're older.
Sure.
And I would like to bring more young people in here.
Yeah.
Not 18 or 21.
Right.
Not people who want to come in
Just
and
a
get
variety
banged
of
up
ages. Yeah.
Yeah, just a bigger demographic.
Right.
So we've been fairly successful, getting younger people in here and turning them on to jazz or the blues or the funk that we're bringing in, you know?
Right. Well, I think like also too, between the food and then even having like the encore space, I think once people actually get in here and they have to walk through Shanghai Jazz to get down to encore. So once they're in here, they're just like, oh wow, like you were saying, it kind of opens up their eyes to like what else you guys got going on here that maybe, you know, they wouldn't have if it was just like, oh, it's just a jazz club, but I'm going to get some fried rice, you know? So, yeah, awesome. Did we touch on everything that you wanted to say? I know I cut you off.
It's okay.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, cool. So, awesome. So when people want to check this place out, we were talking a little bit off air about like seating and different things like that. Can you explain that maybe like on nights where you have live music, which is every night?
We have, so if we're open,
Yeah.
we have live music.
Yeah.
And because of the pandemic, we're short-staffed and have been for 2.5 years. So we're open Tuesday through Saturday now. Traditionally, we've been open on Sundays as well, but we just can't right now.
Yeah.
So Tuesday through Saturday, we have live music. Almost every Tuesday, we have John Corba and his trio. John played with Hall & Oates and Todd Rundgren and was a keyboardist on Rent on Broadway. And he's an amazing musician, a great piano player, and a great vocalist. And it's just a fun start to the week.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing music, fun, little rock, little jazz, Herbie Hancock to Hall & Oates to Van Morrison to Stephen Stills. It's great.
Yeah.
That starts at 6:30. Come in anytime, right? We open the doors at 4:30. Come in, sit down, enjoy however much of the music you'd like.
Yep.
Have dinner and drinks. Go about your Tuesday. And that's pretty consistent. Wednesday, Thursday, music starts at 7. Same idea. Come in whatever time you want. Fridays and Saturdays are, obviously, they're the weekends and are busier nights. So the music's, we do break it up into sets. So first set, music starts at 7. But we seat everyone at 6:15 so that you're able to, or by 6:15.
Okay.
Again, come in anytime between 4:30 and 6:15, get seated, start your dinner, start your meal period, have some cocktails, get an appetizer, eat through the performance. Then everyone gets up and leaves at about 8:15 when the music ends. We reset the dining room and sit another 85 people
Yeah.
for a performance that starts at 9:15.
Okay.
That's a unique experience for everyone.
Yeah.
And if you've worked in restaurants before, it's unique for that too. There are certainly seatings, but it's rare that in any restaurant you're going to find everyone sits down at one time.
Right.
And we try to spread it out because inevitably you sit 80 people at once and one bartender is getting 80 drink orders and the kitchen's getting 80, a kitchen of 3 or 4 guys getting 80 dinner orders at the same time.
Yeah.
Something's going to get, some element of quality is going to get lost.
Sure.
So we try and spread it out as much as we can, but basically you sit down, everybody sits down in a 30-minute period, 45-minute period, and you get your dinner and you enjoy music. And it's unique, but it works really, really well because you get a full music, a concert with 80 friends, 80 people sitting around you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even the furthest seat away from the band has a view and is going to hear well and see great music.
Right.
Every once in a while we get loud groups. We try and seat them further away.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say, you know, you're a jazz club, you need to tell people to be quiet. We can't do that because it's New Jersey. Right?
Yes,
not that New
that.
Jerseyans are necessarily loud, but if we were in New York, that's different. Those restaurants or those jazz clubs, those are jazz clubs.
Yeah.
We are a restaurant jazz club.
Yeah.
We have to have good food and we have to be able to provide a restaurant experience that also has incredible jazz. And that makes us very unique.
Yeah.
But if I told people they're not allowed to talk during dinner, I'd be closed in a month.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's just, unfortunately or fortunately, there's just nothing we can do.
Right.
I just want everybody to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully that's, and usually that's what happens.
Right.
We get people in here having a good time.
Right. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, come in whenever.
Open seating.
And then Friday, Saturday, make a res.
I would say make a reservation regardless.
Yeah. Okay.
One, they help us. More importantly, it
Sure.
guarantees there are plenty of night on Tuesday or Wednesdays where we're sold out.
Right.
And I turn people away.
Yeah. But Friday, Saturday is more of like that specific seating for those performances.
Yep.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen lately, make your reservation by Wednesday for a Friday or Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
If not sooner, because every weekend on 24 hours out, I'm starting to turn people away, if not further.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on our website,
Right, which
ShanghaiJazz.com.
Okay.
I update that as often as I can, and that's got our full music schedule on it. Instagram, my Facebook got hacked and shut down.
Okay, great.
So I've got to rebuild that. That was super. Yeah, somebody hijacked my Facebook.
The Shanghai Jazz Facebook or
Well, my
your
personal, which controlled Shanghai Jazz.
Got it.
They hacked my credit card.
Oh, geez.
They charged a bunch of stuff, and then, as a result, the whole thing got shut down.
Right.
You can't talk to anyone at Facebook. I don't know if
Right.
you ever tried this. It's not possible.
No, I haven't, but
It's a nightmare.
we haven't had to yet. So.
It's awful. So Shanghai Jazz.
Shout out Facebook.
Yeah. Instagram is Shanghai Jazz NJ and Encore Bar Madison. Both on Instagram. Please follow those. If you have any questions, info@Shanghai Jazz is my email.
Yep.
And or you can DM us on Instagram.
Awesome. And then what's the physical address of the space?
24 Main Street in Madison. We are at the corner of Green Village and Main Street. We're right on Main Street, right next to McCool's Ice Cream. And
Awesome. And then parking in the back, got all that going on, so that's great.
Yep. Parking's off of Cook Avenue.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, so this episode has been amazing. So I really appreciate you coming on, having me here, doing this with us today. And I can't wait to get back in here. Honestly, I might come tonight. Like, the more we're talking, I feel like I'm at least going to come for a drink. But Tom, thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Of course.
Great to have you.
Absolutely. So everybody else listening, this has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We were here at Shanghai Jazz and Encore Speakeasy in Madison, New Jersey with Tom Donohoe. I'm Mike Ham. I already said that. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks.
It's up to your own